this is what we're doing here. So part 1, Introduction to the Internet in assignment 1 is going to be on page 47. So then you're going to go to your ebook, which, you know what, I'll open up the ebook for from my computer, because if I open it up from the other one, it's just a preview, it's nothing else. So in here, I'm going to go to my resources, Fundamentals of Web Dev, and my ebook. So once that opens up, I can go to page 47 of the textbook. The key here is you can't just type it in the top of your Adobe program. You have to actually, I wonder if it's working. Oh yeah, it is. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody from the chat. So I'll quickly check that. No, we're good. If you haven't downloaded BB, you can use Notepad++ if you're on a PC, or you can use TextEdit on a Macintosh, or I downloaded BB Edit and it's free. There's a couple other ones, and I have a PowerPoint presentation I'll go through with you guys just to show you some of the basics that you're gonna have to understand for HTML. So, nope, not what I wanted. Back to assignment 1 here. And hopefully this ebook opened up. There we go. So, in your ebook, I'm actually just going to close this so it's a bit bigger. Can you guys see that all right? Might be a little bit small, just because I'm sharing a screen. So I'm going to try and make it as big as I can for you to see. When you go to chapter 1, up at the top of these pages, maybe not on that page, not on that page. Okay, on the bottom of these pages. So here this says HTML2. I'm going to just zoom out a bit. Exploring the internet. Obviously, you guys know a lot about these kind of things. What is World Wide Web? It gives you basically, this is a home page. Here's the links. Here's the content. What is a hyperlink? It talks about protocols. So like just basics of like how computers interact with each other and how that all works. So right here is an example of where the page is. So up here at the top, some people look at this part here. It says HTML 25 with 630. Do not look at this as your page number. Your page number is here. It's number 7. Okay. So when it says go to page 47, you have to look at this black number on the top corner of your PDF, not in your actual, not at the top here of your Adobe information. So lots of this first chapter is on your test, and you will do the test. I suggest doing the test the Wednesday before your class, at least the Wednesday before your class ends. You have 2 attempts. It takes your higher grade. So if you try it once and you don't do well, you understand what's going to be asked of you on the test, and you can like restudy or, you know. So some of this will be on there. It will be like, what is an address bar? What is the Internet Explorer browser? And it gives you, it's all multiple choice though. So, I mean, it will say like, what button is this? You know, it'll give you a picture, or it'll give you options like this. What's the home button? More or less, it will say, what displays the web address of the web page you're viewing? And you would put in the address bar. So that's kind of how the exam works. Knowing what a URL is, types of websites. So like what's an internet site, what's extranet, things like that. I have a little study guide too that you guys can write. You can fill in some information just to see how well you remember this or retain this information, or fill it in and study from it. So that's under your exam folder. So I'm still going through here. I'm only on page 11. I'm going to just scroll down to 47 to show you an example. So once you get through this chapter, so when you get to the pages that turn yellow, and you'll see what I mean. So here, so where the background is yellow, it's called Applying Your Knowledge. I do suggest you practice creating a web page using these. You can copy and paste if you'd rather not type all this in, because if you make one tiny little error in like a space or like not forgetting a return or anything, it won't work. Like it's very, very particular. I say it's like accounting. So just bear with the program and I'll give you some ideas on how to go through this. So still going through that assignment that says go to page 47. So once you get to the yellow pages, you know you're close. Right here is where it says consider this your turn. So this is on page 47. This is part of your assignment. This is part 1 of assignment 1. And remember, it said in your assignment to choose one scenario. So in here it says 1, 2, 3. Those blue. So there's like portfolio, web development, or dog hall of fame. We only want you guys to worry about your portfolio website. So you're going to try and just create one from scratch, basically. I suggest going through the lessons and just using, instead of using what they have said to do for their website, just do it for your own. And then in the end, you'll know how to like change that to create your own. You'll just change up a few of the links and the colors and things like that, and you'll make it your own. So you're kind of getting 2 things done at once because you do only have 3 weeks. And you have 3 assignments, a final project, and a test. So have I lost anyone yet? Hopefully not. I'm going to go back to your assignments here. So in your assignment again, it says consider this. Oh, I also have the same, so where it says consider this, like these things, consider this your turn. I've also made a PDF of those in here, just so you understand part 1, part 2, part 3. So in your consider this is the one you're doing here. These ones we don't want you to worry about. And maybe I'll go into those and cross those out just so people don't get confused. So you just follow this. So your assignment 1 is basically going to be like create plan a website by completing the table in the portfolio docx. Ours isn't a docx, ours is a fillable PDF. So I'm just going to minimize this screen and go to your so here it is, website planning document editable. So you're going to open up that, and in here you're basically going to type in the information that is given here. So in here it says what is the purpose and the goal of the website, and you're going to put like it's a portfolio, right? So what is your purpose of your portfolio? It's either to get work, to get clients, to advertise something, or to like you're trying to put yourself out there and get people to know what you do and find some business. So then what is the company's mission statement? So these are all things you kind of have to think about. And it's just trying to get your mind ready for like what the whole web side of designing is about. So fill out that information, and that's basically part 1, and then you're done. So you could probably do that even today, right? The next part is...
I'm sorry, so part 1 is just to fill out that table?
This table, yep, that's it. So that's part 1. And maybe I will try, you know what, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to try and rename this and just put part 1 behind it, just so that it's more clear, I guess, to everyone that that's what it is. Okay, so then we have part 2. And in here I have it already set up for you. So this is like consider your turn, page 81. So if you go to back to your ebook, in your ebook, or sorry, you have to go to your assignment. I'm going to open it up in here, assignment. So in your assignment, it says here, part 2 is building a web template with HTML5. So based on the scenario you selected, which is a portfolio, complete part 1 or 2 of the instructions set on Consider This, page 81. So then you're going to go to your ebook. Oops, no, the wrong file. And this is where it gets confusing because you're swapping between like PDFs, your ebook, your, you know, and so lots of people get confused. This is why I said write it, make notes, write it down. It's really good to have a book like this to refer back to. Honestly, like I did it forever just to understand this stuff. Or you can print out some of the information if you, that's easier. Sometimes that's easier, and just keep it in a binder. So this one here, again, you're only doing the portfolio website. So you're just doing number 1 on page 80. Well, now we're on 80. We're supposed to be on 81. So I'm going to go down, and when I get to those yellow pages again, I can slow down. So you're going to go through all of these pages and just go through them. And then it says, we're getting there. What page are we on? 76. Keep going. Oh, here we go. Consider this your turn. So this is your homepage for your portfolio website. So in chapter 1, it talks about what you did. It says next here, enter 4 pairs of HTML tags, a header, a nav, a div tag, and a footer. So you should understand what those are by now, and you will just add those into your wireframe, and then you just follow these instructions basically. You add your comment, you add this. So before you do that, and you get too far ahead in this, this is just how to function through your assignment and get through those with your ebook. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through a quick version of a PowerPoint presentation I created to help understand the coding aspect of fundamentals of WebDev. So in exam notes, so you're going to go to the folder exam notes, and you'll see there's 3 different files. So the first file is that quiz that I told you about. It's just to help you study. You can print it off, or it's fillable, so you can fill out all the information. So it will expect you to know things like what are types of structures. So there's linear, hierarchical, and webbed. You'll know what those mean by the end of chapter 1. Types of websites. So there's commerce, learning management, which is LMS, and that's like eCampus. That's an LMS system. Blogs, and personal and social media websites. So then you can just go through this and fill in the blanks. It kind of gives you an idea, and then you'll know if you understand these. We can always go through them if you guys all fill them out and give you, like, obviously this isn't, it's out of 70, but we're not marking it. So then the next sheet I have in here is called HTML and CSS study sheet. So this is just some more information for you to study from, and this is more about what each coding system means. So here's your anatomy of your HTML system right here. So this is the basics, and it tells you what each title does. And then it gives you a breakdown of what these all mean. So nav means navigation. P means paragraph. H1 means heading 1. A is a tag that defines a hyperlink. So this is just a little bit of information. Again, it looks complex, but as you go through the book, you'll be like, oh, this is handy, and you understand it. And then this is the PDF. This is the PowerPoint presentation I created to help kind of understand. So as you're going through, you can refer back to these notes, and these are notes that I would take. So for this one, we're just going to quickly go through this today. It's not too long. We're not going to do the CSS too much, just go through the HTML. So first day of WebDev. This is a good one to just understand. So what is web coding? What are web coding basics? So basically what you're first going to have to do is you're going to learn HTML, and you need to have your notepad on a PC or text edit on a Mac. And then I go through like how to open the application and write view the HTML page in your browser. So other editors that you can use are Adobe Dreamweaver. We don't want you to use Adobe Dreamweaver so much because we want you to really focus on understanding the HTML coding right now, because you're going to be doing Dreamweaver next. And we find if you do Dreamweaver while you're doing this, you don't learn as much about the coding and understanding the coding. I suggest BB Edit because I use that. There's a lot of people who use, but these are just some of the free versions other than Dreamweaver that you can choose. So anatomy. So HTML has an anatomy, and we're going to talk about that. So the main parts of an HTML element are as follows. And I color coded this because it's easier to explain. When I wrote notes, I just kind of like highlighted each part. The main parts of our element are as follows. Opening tag. So an opening tag is basically your name of your element. So in this case, it's P. Remember that I also said it could be like H1, which is heading 1. It could say like body. It could say head or header. So things like that. And it's wrapped in angle brackets. So this is your opening tag. So angle bracket in P. That's your opening. Next is your closing tag. You always need to have, there's only very rare circumstances where you don't need a closing tag. That's where you get errors. If you do not have a closing tag, you will get, so you need an opening tag and a closing tag in all of your elements. Your closing tag is at the end, and notice how it has a slash and your angle brackets. So it's like a slash, your element name, and then angle brackets, okay? The next one is your content is everything in between your opening and closing. So you have an opening, a closing, and everything in the middle is your content. The whole thing all together is your element. So you have an opening tag, content, and a closing tag. And together those are all the element. So common types of element tags. So these are the ones that I was talking about before. So you can have HTML. This one is an opening. But the inside of this HTML is your element tag, what it's referring to. So it's referring to the HTML. This one's referring to your heading. This one is referring to a page title. This one's referring to your body, right? So these are just some of what you can have. Ordered list, unordered list, link, things like that. So name the anatomy of these elements. So opening tag. So it would be opening tag P, opening tag H1. There's another one in this line, and then this one as well, title. In here, I highlight them a bit. So there's P, H1, and title, but there's two more which are tricky because you can have opening tags inside of other opening tags. So in here we have the M for emphasis and B for bold. So we have an opening tag. So basically that would just make that word bold. And this one would make it italicized, or depending on what font you had, it would interpret it as an M. Or you can actually state what this means, but we'll get into that later.
Is it like a highlight inside the text?
It's like it makes the text like a different font, or italicizes it, or bolds it, or underlines it, or stuff like that. So closing tags. Closing tags are basically the same as your, just with the slash, right? So in this one, there's 5. And I have highlighted 3 here. I did not highlight the ones in the center. Notice that. So there's a bold and an M, closing tags. And notice how the closing tag for the M, it's in the middle and then it's in the end. So just think of it mirroring each other. So you have the dash closing title. It's not like that, you have to keep them like in that kind of mirrored order. Content. So again, we have our content, and that's anything that's typed that will all show up in your, it will show up in your copy unless it's in your heading. And then here's your elements. The elements are all the whole entire thing. So in this one, I give you, there's also something called attributes. So each element has something called attributes. Attributes are like an extra language that gives your tag it just tells it to do some other things. And we'll go through that. So there's a space between it and then the element name. So notice in this example on the side, I have a space href. So an href attribute is a URL attribute, so you can link to a page. So an A is anchor. So it's anchoring a link to that web page. In this one, it's image space source. So that would be like your images in your image folder, for example. Then after you have so this isn't the whole attribute and this isn't the whole element. Remember, this is just an opening tag. So inside you will have something that has an equal sign. So in this example here, this one is paragraph. Like if you look in the list of attributes, it says angle bracket P space style. That means that you're giving it a style. So you can say in here, you can say color blue, for example, and this is like an inline style. So it has to do with CSS, but it's called an attribute. And we'll go through this, but all these attributes can associate with a CSS. So that's always the part that is, I always say, like, your HTML is your house frame and your CSS is your interior design or the finishing touches. So 3, the attribute value wrapped by the opening and closing and quotation marks. So in the next one here, I have HTML language equals, and then in quotation marks, it says EN. EN stands for English. So that's your language attribute. Attributes provide additional information about the elements, and it's always in the start tag. You don't necessarily have closing tags for them, but they come in a name and value pairs, like name equals and then whatever value you have. So it won't actually say value. That's just like, it's a value associated with the element. For this example, do you guys see what can you tell me what the attribute is? Can you guess?
Like one is like image source.
Yes. So image source, and then this img, the attribute is source, and you'll see that on the next one. So it's source, and it's also alt. So alt meaning alternative. So if you were to say somewhere in your HTML, girl with jacket, alt girl with jacket, it would take any pictures with that alternate name on it, and it would also apply to that. For this one, it's href. And for this one down here, it's title equals, or title, sorry, the title. What is nesting an element? So we're going to talk about what nesting the element is, and we kind of did that in our very first, when we were explaining what elements are. So nesting is like that M dash that I was, so where you're styling your wording, or you could put italicize or bold or something like that. So nesting elements are those ones that are inside of your content or inside of your opening and closing tag. So that's what your nesting is called. Empty elements. So this is where I was saying when you don't have to put in a closing tag, it's called an empty element. So image source is typically one of those ones that don't ever have a closing tag. So that's all it will say is like source and then your images. So the first part of this source is your folder, which is images, and then a slash, and then this is your image name. Tell me if I'm going too fast for you guys, okay? The index. So the anatomy of HTML documents. So your index is basically your first page or your home page of your website, always. Always call it index. It won't ask you to do that in some of the assignments, and that's okay. If you want to change it, that's up to you. Just make sure that you always know that it's nice for us to have that as the first page, so we know that's your home page. So this is where I was saying this is your basic anatomy, and you can copy and paste this into your text editor, whatever you're using. So I will copy this for now, and I will give you an example. So I'm going to open up my BB Edit, and I'm just going to paste this in a document, and I'm just going to label this save as, I would say save as website template or something like that. So you kind of have most of, you can always just copy this, right? It's just easy to open this from a file to start a document. Template start, I'll say. And then I'll just save it on my desktop. Okay. So that would be what I would do, so you don't have to just keep typing these out, putting in returns and things like that. We're going to go through what each line means now. So the very first, you always have to have, this is in every single HTML document, is angle bracket, exclamation, doc type in capitals, space, HTML, angle bracket. So that is your opening. That's saying this is a website, right? This is going on the internet. This is how, you know, it's just saying like start basically. The next thing here is your HTML tags saying that this is an HTML document. This isn't anything else. It's an HTML document. So make sure you always start with the opening and a closing, and then you put everything else in the middle. Like I said, you're mirroring. So always remember, like, you have your HTML and your HTML, and everything in your document should be within those opening and closing tags. The next thing that we have that's very important in here is the body. So everything within your body is everything that you see on a web page. So your headings, your type, your stories, everything is within that body opening and closing tag. Where it says head here, like this one here, head opening and close, this is just information in your coding that refers to like your CSS, which refers to this one, for example, where it says title, that is what your keyword search would be in your browser window. If it says my test page and you were Googling my test page, that's what would come up. It's also the little tab at the top of your browser window. That would be what its name is, my test page. So this could be called index, for example, but your title page could be portfolio homepage or something like that. So just a little bit of understanding. This is some CSS, and I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want to confuse you guys. So you can go through this when you get there. Otherwise, we can go through this part tomorrow. Is that enough for your brains?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do the CSS tomorrow.
When it says what to submit, ignore this part. Ignore the part that's not bolded. So it says part 1. So see how it says Web Dev Doc and Hall of Fame, but we just have portfolio, HTML, and then portfolio updated HTML. So those are your part 1, part 2, part 3. And there's one other part that I wanted to show you in that document, keeping your files organized, because this won't work. Like, we'll open up your files and it will not work if you don't have everything in there. But there's one part of this that tells you how to organize your files. So I'm just going to go to that page right here. So there's a picture of how to organize your files here. This should almost be like above here. So when you're organizing your HTML files, notice so it's my website in a folder, and then you have your HTML immediately inside that folder. Now, anything that links to this HTML needs to be in folders beside it. So your images folder, your CSS, and your JavaScript folder. You might have a folder that says templates or other things, but the only thing that should not be in a folder are your HTML files. So you might have one that says index HTML, and then one that says about me HTML, and then one that says portfolio HTML, et cetera, et cetera. So each page in your website will be its own HTML, unless it's just a scrolling page. If you guys want to try that out, stop me and I'll go through it again. If you need more help. Otherwise, let's see how you do.